Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss about data independence in DBMS. Let us discuss data independence first. Data independence means independence. It is a liberty, it is a capability or a capacity. It is a capacity of modifying the data, taking the liberty of modifying the data. So whenever you are modifying the data, you have to remember one thing, that if you are modifying one level of the data, it should not affect or it should not disturb the other levels. Whenever you are modifying one part of the data, you should not affect the other portions of the data. Okay, so capacity of modifying the data in one level without affecting the other levels. In simple example, let us take, I have entered student marks in server. So unfortunately, instead of 80 marks, it was typed 8 marks. What I need to do? I need to modify the student data, right? Whenever I want to modify the student data, suppose the student ID is some 5. Whoever is holding the roll number 5, I want to edit his marks. Whenever I am editing his marks, it should not affect the details or marks of other students. Okay, I have the capability, I have the freedom of modifying, but whenever I am modifying, it should not affect the other levels. Okay, so other levels of data. We have two types of data independence. One is physical level, data independence. The second one is logical level. You can take logical level, you can write it as conceptual level. These physical level, conceptual level, view level, we have already learned in our abstraction levels concept. Okay, if you did not attend on that session, you can go and check the video. Okay, logical or conceptual data independence. So let us discuss first what is physical data independence. Physical data independence, we already know physical level data independence. Physical level is also known as internal level. Physical level is also known as internal level. In abstraction levels, no, one is internal level, lower level, that is physical level. The middle one is the conceptual or logical level, and the last one is the user level, view level, right? So physical level is an internal level where whenever you are doing modifications in the physical level or internal level, it should not affect the conceptual level. Modifications in physical level should not affect logical level. Suppose, let us take an example. I'm a data admin who is managing or maintaining the database. What I can do, see, a lot of data was stored in database, right? So I have a liberty. I can modify the database, like I can save the data from one drive to other drive. I can move the data from other drive to one drive to other drive, or I can migrate from one server to other server, or I can upgrade the versions of the server. I can do any modification in the physical level. But remember, whatever the content is there in the database, it should not disturb the content. Suppose, let us imagine, I have saved in database, I have stored students details. students deletes all the details related to student. I have say unsaved in a database. Now database administrator, he can do the things like he can shift the data from that particular disk to another disk. But whenever he is doing modifications in the physical level, it should not affect my data. Should be like that only. He cannot modify the content in the data. He cannot disturb the data, whatever there in the database. So any modifications in the physical level should not affect the data in the logical level. Why? Because it is really necessary to improve the it is really very necessary to improve the performance of the system. Sometimes it is very necessary to reorganize the database, because the database will be having lots of information, right? It is very necessary, at least sometime or the other, at least not frequently, at least sometimes it is really very necessary to reorganize the data in the database in order to improve the performance of the system. Whenever you are reorganizing the data, remember you should not affect the concept or whatever the content that is stored in the database. Okay, it should not get affected. So modifications in a physical level should not affect the logical level, like reorganizing the database to improve the performance should not affect the concept. Okay, that is about physical level. The next one is logical level. Same here. When whatever the modifications in the conceptual or logical level should not affect the external level. Remember, in physical level, modifications in physical level should not affect logical. Whereas coming to conceptual, whatever the modifications we are doing should not affect external. External means what? User's view. Whatever the data that user wants to view, he has to see the data. We need to satisfy him. We need to fulfill his requirements. So modification should not affect external level. That is user's view. Okay. So like in conceptual, you can expand your database, or you can insert or delete some rows in the table. But remember, whatever the data is really necessary for the user, the data should be shown to user. That data should be shown to user without doing any kind of modifications. You can expand here, you can expand the database, you can expand database, or you can insert or delete some rows, insert or delete some rows, but it should not affect the external level. Means whatever the user wants to see the data, we should not modify the data. I already told, right, one example. We can, whenever I have entered the marks, if I want to do any kind of modification by mistake, I can do. It is a man-made, human-made errors. Errors are common. I can rectify that one, right? So when instead of 80 marks, it was typed 8. I can modify the data, but I should not affect the user's view. User can see his marks because that marks were there. I am not going to delete that one. Means I am not going to do any. I am not going to affect the data. The user can view his data. Though I am modifying, the user can view the data. I am not going to affect any kind of external level. So that is about two types of independence. One is physical and one is logical.